I went to that Banks Nate Shot event. I had to walk by him and his wife and his kid. This dude looks me in my eyes and says, bro, I'm not gonna lie, I had a threesome with two 16-year-olds. I'm like, bro, what?
Faze Clan is again in hot water, and for some reason, it seems like it'll never die down. As former member Faze Rain has come out and talked more about the people inside of the group, one of them specifically being Temperrr, who is apparently a Geppetto, which is some insane news because he sat on this information for 2+ years. All of a sudden feels like he needs to come out and talk about it, starting a bunch of controversy with not only Temperrr, the person he's accusing, but also Banks, who was getting accused of being a diddler as well. It genuinely broke the internet yesterday, as he originally just posted a clip saying he is going to talk about it, and now he has come out speaking on it, with not only having Banks responding, getting on a call with him, but also having Temperrr and him going back and forth on Twitter with different videos. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so then we start from the very beginning with how this all started in the first place.
I want to put everything to do with me and Faze to rest, bro, because there is so much I haven't said, and honestly at this point, bro, I don't give I think I'm gonna collect my thoughts tomorrow and I'm gonna say everything, bro, every single thing that I know. And there's bad, I'm just gonna do it on stream. I don't give it's gonna come straight from the heart. So if people have other questions, I'm gonna answer it too, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't even know why. It was for multiple reasons. It was by being over by my homies. I wasn't even pushed out, I left. There's a involved too, bro. I don't give if I get sued. I could give a I always stand up for what's right.
I do want to start this video saying that this is all alleged. And if there are any concrete things said, it is purely my opinion or me speaking from the point of view of Rain or Banks or any other Faze members. For anyone who's unaware of what Faze Clan is or who the members in Faze are, I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of everything you need to know. Faze Clan is an organization, mainly a gaming group that happened to break up a couple of months ago and have a rebrand, with some of the members being kicked out, some of them leaving of their own volition, and basically just the entire company having a rework like it's an old cartoon or something, rebooting with a bunch of new members, those being the current members / streamers. But Rain, who was a part of the old Faze, was a member that had a grudge with a lot of things that were going on with the company behind the scenes. Came with money wise, his friends switching up on him, and apparently there's new information that he just dropped. This situation specifically only involves 2 other members though, that being Temperrr and Banks. Banks being one of the people who was in the higher ups, and Temperrr being a person who was like a big brother to both Rain and Banks, bringing them all together and helping them during their career. Rain is coming out with this information after having a stream where he said he wanted to air out everything going on with Faze because he just does not care anymore. Starting off with the PDF accusations that he has on Faze Temperrr. But a lot of people at first didn't know he was talking about Temperrr and immediately went and accused Banks, which was the first issue of all of this because he never clarified in that clip. He just said there was a PDF file in Faze. So since that happened, a bunch of people started going back into Banks' archives, digging up old videos or old stuff he's even done, with some people even bringing up old news of him and Charli D'Amelio hanging out together, with him holding her wrist.
Faze Banks has got to be stopped. Everyone's upset with him because of this video. So the video you just saw is Faze Banks walking with Charli D'Amelio at Coachella. As you see in the video, for some reason, he's holding Charli's wrist. Now that's a little odd, but what's more odd is the fact that Faze Banks is 32 years old and Miss Charli D'Amelio is 19. To put this in perspective, Charli graduated high school about 2 years ago, and Faze Banks graduated high school about 14 years ago. This has a lot of people concerned, basically asking things like why Faze Banks is sort of holding Charli's wrist like that. They're also very upset with Faze Banks and Charli's parents because a 19 and 32-year-old, while legally, yes, it's fine, morally, it's just like, ugh.
Including that Charli D'Amelio incident with a 32-year-old hanging out with a 19-year-old already being very weird, and as he said, questionable. Faze Banks' history is nothing short of sketchy behavior, with him recently leaving the internet due to scammer allegations, which isn't even the first time that's happened to him. And because of that, a bunch of people immediately went and started pointing the finger at him, mentioning him in a bunch of things, stating that this is why a bunch of members, even recent members from Faze, are leaving because of his weird actions and his weird behavior that's consistently happening. And obviously that's going to cause somebody to want to come and speak out and defend themselves, but Faze Banks did it in one of the most immature ways possible, coming on the internet, specifically Twitter, and saying this.
First thing I'm going to say in this video is I'm not a Rain is not talking about me. There, I got it out. The first thing that needs to be addressed is obviously this. It's a very heavy accusation. That's why this is the first time that I'm speaking about it. I have to speak about it now because there's no shot I'm going outside like that. I'm not getting labeled. Rain's going off about how Faze has slighted him, and he brings up that somebody's a nobody gives a nobody wants to talk about it. I'm like, what the are you talking about? He's like, Banks, don't play dumb. We talked about this before. I'm like, Norden, pause. You're saying that Faze Temperrr is a... I'm calling him. That was the first thing I said. I'm calling him and I'm calling Apex because apparently this is something Apex is aware of as well. And we sit on this phone call and we talk for a long time. And Tommy's first initial knee-jerk reaction to all was, what the are you talking about? Norden, no, this is not what the conversation was like. You're misremembering, you're misinterpreting. Obviously, Rain is coming back, standing firm on the fact that, no, you did say this. I do believe that you did this.
Faze Banks obviously just cleared his name. In the beginning, he didn't really say anything much about himself, just clarifying that he is not a .pdf file, and the fact that he is actually talking about Temperrr, which we all know now. And he continues on to talk about how originally when he got this information, it was just Rain going off on a text thread, and then eventually leading to a call because he mentioned that somebody in Faze was actually a .pdf file, which ended up having him get on a call with Temperrr and Apex, leading to them arguing back and forth, basically going nowhere. Since it seemed like the conversation was going nowhere, Apex and Banks took it upon themselves to just ask why Rain would be accusing him of this in the first place, because it made no real sense to just say that somebody likes children with no proof, evidence, or even a real conversation happening.
And there's a conversation that happened between Norden and Faze Temperrr years ago. I might be misremembering it, but I think it was 3-4 years ago they talked about this, and that's how long these guys have been sitting on that for. This gets brought up years later. It's obviously a very heavy accusation. Yeah, what can you do in that situation? The way we left that phone call off was, let's get to the bottom of this, let's handle it. I mean, Rain's talking about making videos, Rain's talking about this, and nobody's telling him not to. I mean, obviously Tommy's like, bro, this isn't true, you're gonna ruin my life. You know, the implications, the ramifications rather, this has on his life, it's life shattering, you know what I'm saying? And I don't, for the record, also, I don't necessarily have any reason to believe that Tommy is a predator. If that were the case, I wouldn't be following him. He would not be my homie. I would have spoken about this to some degree or handled it to some degree to a point where I was satisfied with the result. But this was a thing between Norden and Tommy. And Tommy's response was, you're bugging, you're tripping. This is not true.
Faze Banks' response still left us with more questions than really answers. He just talked about a conversation happening between Rain and Temperrr, no real details of the conversation, and outright just saying himself he doesn't believe that there was enough evidence or anything really said for him to believe that Temperrr is actually a predator or someone he should cut off, and just didn't really help in the situation at all, because we still have one person being accused of being a predator and another person just saying that's not the case and is not true. So it's really just a he said, she said, this entire situation. So eventually Rain, the very next day, came out, went on stream and talked about the situation in more detail, specifically why he would accuse this man of being a predator in the first place.
I went to that Banks Nate Shot event. I had to walk by him and his wife and his kid. Like, bro, that's so fucking sad. I wish I don't know. I just wish it happened so I could have been there for him while he had a kid. It breaks my fucking heart. This dude looks me in my eyes and says, bro, I'm not gonna lie, I had a threesome with 2 16-year-olds. I'm like, bro, what? Like, how could you tell me that after I'm telling you 3 rules I have to why I'll never have your back as a friend? On my mother's heartbeat, that's what he said. He looked me in the eyes and he said that. I told Banks and I told Apex immediately. He dropped me off home and we haven't talked since. That's why you guys were like, bro, why don't you play CS with him? Why don't you play this with him? I don't want to say it, bro. I feel fucking bad.
For me, if somebody was to come out and tell me something like that, I feel like it was pretty cut and dry information. And in Rain's position, if somebody came up to you and was like, yeah, they did something with 2 16-year-olds as a grown adult in their mid-20s, you're definitely going to look at them differently and never want to talk about them again. So it makes sense why he not only cut him off, but he also informed Banks and Apex, according to him, immediately after it happened. Yet it just seems like this information is coming out of nowhere, and seemingly everybody that's a part of it, that being Temperrr, Banks, and Apex, just seem like they have never heard or seen this info before. It generally makes you question their morals and their ethics, and why even Rain himself have not said anything for years just sitting on this information. I do want to make this also very clear. Technically, this is all alleged. It's not like Rain has any hard-hitting proof, because he said this was all through phone calls and in-person conversations, and he doesn't record any of that info. But it generally is sad that a bunch of people can account that this is happening, that being 3 different people, Banks, Apex, and Rain, and just now we are getting the info about this. And along with that, we have Banks apparently lying about stuff that happened, with one saying that he never admitted it on the call when Rain says otherwise, along with the fact that he is trying to have some moral high ground by acting like he didn't know about the situation the second time Rain brought it up to him.
Call concluded and Tommy didn't admit to it. Yes, he did. And you called me and you said, bro, this is so fucking bad. He said he's gonna kill himself if this shit ever comes out. And that's why I feel extra fucking bad, bro. You guilted me into not saying it, because you're like, if bro, that's gonna be on you. And you made me feel horrible for that. So I don't know what the fuck to do, bro. And I had an epiphany yesterday. I'm like, bro, why have I been holding this information for this guy for 2 years? But I know he doesn't give a fuck about me. He doesn't give a fuck about anything that happened. It's just I felt bad. Why do I always feel so bad for people, bro? And I don't ever want to make it about myself at all because it's not. But bro, what are you doing dropping a 10-minute video acting like I'm talking about you? Yeah, bro, people are tweeting at you. I don't know why they're tweeting at you. I don't know, fucking couple hours and I would have streamed and said it wasn't you. It's just so weird. It like deadass makes me think some shit. Because why are you so defensive? Just let me speak, bro. And you know I wasn't gonna say anything about you. And bro, when I told Banks about it, he said, nah, bro, that's just some Tommy shit. I don't think it's a big deal. Because it was over the phone where it's like gone, right? I'm not recording phone calls. He said that. He said that's just some Tommy shit and didn't think it was a big deal, right? And he knew going forward. And then when I texted him about it later down the line, he pretended like we've never talked about it before. I was like, bro, what are you doing? And in my head, I'm like, bro, he's just doing this so that if I hypothetically ever screenshotted it, you know, it looks like he cares and he's defending it and shit like that. I'm not saying he doesn't care, but he didn't do anything about it at the time when I brought it up.
And Faze has a very checkered past. Rain being one of the people who has been exposing a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes. I'm not surprised he's talking about this as well. And Banks has a history of doing very fraudulent stuff. So I don't want to just outright accuse him of being cool with having a .pdf file on his team, but it would not be surprising with all the other stuff he's just allowed to happen. Again, this is just he said, she said. Even from Banks' perspective, he was never outright given evidence, but according to Rain, he literally admitted on a call of having this happen. I don't know how somebody can hear that information knowing that he does technically have a family of his own, but knowing the weird stuff that he's done and just sit there and their only response be that's just something that he does. His response being that's some Tommy shit and just seeming like, hey, that's a cool thing to have after someone accused him of being a .pdf file and apparently he admitted having doing the things that he said, and you're just going to slide it off of this that's all okay. Banks and anybody else involved is weird in this situation for not only coming out with this information sooner, but just shoving it away, being like, hey, it's something that just happened, as if it's some light thing like, man, he cheated a trick shot or he faked a clip. That is not what this is at all. Because later on, Banks sees his response and decides to just hop on a call with him and talk about the situation, where it just makes it even worse for everybody who was not Rain involved, and actually even him for not coming out with this information sooner because of some of the stuff that Temperrr allegedly admitted.
His story does not line up with what you're saying.
The only difference in this story, by the way, is what, again, brother, he told me 2 16-year-olds threesome, and then on the call he said, if I said it to sound cool. Do you remember him saying that? There's no way. There's no way. That's such a crazy thing to say.
Brain, I'm fried, brother. I honestly, like,
okay, so
it sounds like something. It sounds like
it's not like
I remember. So dumb that it sounds like something I could hear Tommy in an unironic way, like saying, like, I don't know. I don't understand how that's cool though. Like, that's the part that doesn't, like.
I don't think it's cool either, bro. And I don't fucking agree with that. But what I'm saying, that's what he said. So insinuating, if he did say, I said it to sound cool, it's what he said. It's what he said. Whether he, for God knows why, he lied to me and said it was a threesome with a 16-year-old when it was a single with a 17 and one was watching. God knows why he lied and said it was a threesome. God knows why. Especially when I'm telling him how fucking demonic and evil that shit is and how I'll never have your back. That's what he said. So then he goes in the call that we had after with me, you, Apex, Tommy, and he said it was a 17-year-old. He admitted it, bro. He did. And then he said, if this shit ever comes out, bro, I have a kid now, I have a wife, I'll kill myself. And you called me after, you're like, bro, you never talked like that. Please don't do it, bro. I don't want him to fucking kill himself.
I do remember that, by the way.
Now, there was a longer clips of the stream that actually happened between Rain and Banks, but nothing really came of them, just going back and forth with no real dialogue happening. This clip in particular, though, is basically the mainstay that came out of that conversation, where they were talking and said the story got changed from it just being 2 16-year-olds to it being a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old just watching, which doesn't make it any better, even more weirder that he would admit this to somebody and also just allow this to happen. But Rain actually asking Banks if he remembers all of this and being like, yeah, I do remember this happening, where he talked about he would off himself if any of this information ever came out. And there's a reason why they held off on it, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter if he is a .pdf file. Protecting him in any way, shape, or form just because he is going to off himself just doesn't sit right with me personally. It still is something you should come out and talk about, especially if you're going to come out and talk about it anyway, that being 2 years later. And obviously with all the accusations, all the stuff stacked against him, Temperrr himself wanted to come on Twitter and talk about the situation, making a like 5-minute long video, which we are not going to go through the entire thing, just the most important parts, which don't really exist because I'm a spoiler for you. He doesn't really say anything important of substance during that video at all.
The fact that I'm even having to respond to this, that my name is in the same breath as the word is so sick, twisted, and insane. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not that type of person. I am the furthest thing. It's so mind-blowing that someone that I really built a brotherhood with, someone that I really considered a brother, when you were in a wheelchair for 2 years and like I was so gutted at the fact that like you couldn't walk again, and then all of a sudden you were able to walk again, and I was the happiest person in the room. There wasn't a single soul that was happier for you than me. And I believe that you brought it up just for money purposes, that you wanted money out of Faze. Like you stated that a year ago in the conversation with me, Banks, and Apex. You stated, if you don't get paid that, you're gonna air this out. That is blackmail. This is not like, you know who I am, you know the type of person I am. I am not what you called me. All I care about is my family, bro. Like my biggest concern is my family, my wife, and my kid. Now my kid has to grow up and see this, then see that his father is in the same, that my name is in the same light as what you just called me.
Obviously, he didn't really address the situation outside of just saying that he is not a .pdf file, he is no predator, and these accusations are going to hurt not only him but also his family in the long run, which again, since this stuff is alleged, with him having no concrete proof, not even showing any text messages, but we still do have Banks, Rain, and Apex all saying that they did hear this conversation happen. But I just want to dissect more into what he specifically said in his response, which again, as I said earlier, was a lot of nothing. He could have at least addressed the situation more, talked about the story that Rain said, and explained that this isn't actually what happened, or even went into some rant about the story in any way, shape, or form. He instead just talked about how he really liked Rain, how he was happy for him, and even mentioning a story talking about when he couldn't walk, when he started walking, he was the happiest person in the room. I mean, that's crazy. If I had the inability to walk and then started walking, I feel like personally I would be the happiest person in the room, but maybe I'm wrong because I've never been in that situation. He just did a lot of yapping, and especially when Rain saw this, he even pointed that out. He is not really addressing the situation at all, just talking about other things to deflect from what's going on,
bro. And then you're over here lying about it. It's insane, bro. I don't think he goes around preying on little girls and trying to get things out of them. I think he had a very bad judge of character, and he did some shit, okay? But I don't think he seeks to do that shit, if that makes fucking sense. You know what I mean? I don't think he goes around looking for underage girls and people that look young and shit like that. But he did some weird shit. And I still consider that, like, I do, because that's an underage person. You are old enough to know better. Exactly. He didn't address anything. He just tried to fucking take character shots to try to demean who the fuck I am. And you're never gonna do that. You can try to say whatever the fuck you want. All these try to make criticisms about me, they project, I promise.
Even with this entire situation broken down with that terrible response that got dissected and the initial start of this of Rain trying to expose Faze Clan, it just seems like there are no real winners or heroes in this situation. You might look at Rain and be like, hey man, he's the guy that's exposing a .pdf file. He is the good guy here. When in all reality, he sat on this information for like 2+ years. And then we have people like Banks coming on here, apparently having amnesia because of how many hardcore stuff he does that he can't even remember a situation correctly. Then we have Temperrr coming on, the person that's being accused of being a .pdf file and not even addressing the situation fully, just talking about other stuff and try to demean Rain's character. No one in this situation is actually good, and genuinely I want you to understand that from the bottom of my heart. Everybody involved is weird. And let's dissect Rain, the one that came out with these accusations. He waited again 2+ years with no real reason as to why, because if you were just gonna come out with this information now, you might as well have just said it back then, because it's going to have the exact same effects but make you look like the weirder person for just sitting there waiting.
First off, I did not wait 4 years, it was 2 years, and it's hard, bro. It's fucking hard. It's not an easy thing to speak up about. It's not something where you're just like, oh yeah, you know, somebody I've known for fucking 14-15 years and that I was a massive fan of and that I lived with him for years, I can just, yeah, fuck it, let me say it. It's hard, bro. So I just left Faze. I didn't know what the fuck to do, and again, I'm sorry for withholding it for a little bit. But again, I'm not gonna say that. But it was tough. So if you want to blame me for not saying it for a couple of years because I was so hurt by it, I didn't know what to do and I left.
He had it so hard, guys. You got to understand from his POV. He found out somebody was a pred, his friend, and he had to wait not a couple months, not a year plus. And now he is finally in himself. He's cool with himself enough to share to the world, to his family, his wife, his kids, that he is apparently a pred, allegedly. Why not just say it then? His wife, his kids are still going to be affected if you said it back then. personally, for me, waiting even like a month and a half, a couple of months is too long. Because if you're eventually just going to say it and I've been sitting on this info for so long, it makes you look like the bad guy. And genuinely, I feel like Rain definitely is. He looks like he wants something from the situation, regardless of if he feels like he's doing the right thing of exposing somebody, which he is, but he's just doing it in the worst way possible. Because this is something you should expose somebody for either a week later, that day, the next day, not 2 years later. And if this is all true, Temperrr is definitely a weirdo. Banks is just being Banks and has always been a weirdo in my opinion. And it just seems like no matter what's going on with the FaZe clan, the members involved, not the new ones, but the old ones, there is just stuff in their past that's always going to come to light. I wouldn't be surprised if a month later, a year later, we hear something else about people inside of FaZe. It's getting to the point where they just need a full-fledged investigation so we can get to the bottom of all the weird stuff that has been happening behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, that is just my opinion. If you want to tell me your opinion, the best place to know would be the comment section down below. This video is unfortunately over, but if you did enjoy this video, maybe consider giving it a like. And if you enjoy content like this, then maybe consider subscribing, because I post like this every single week. And never miss out on a single upload. If you hit that bell icon, because you'll be notified the millisecond a video goes live. That's enough for me. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace out.